Hello, and welcome to the fourth and most likely last episode of Full Court Press. My name is Chris Murphy, and to my right is Colton Poole.
Hello.
We are Forum Sports reporters, and we are here to talk about sports because we like sports.
And we don't care who knows.
That is true. I don't care who knows. So, Colton, you were in Jamestown, went there and back 3 days in a row, which I'm sure was a lovely drive.
Absolutely.
And you covered the state boys soccer tournament for North Dakota. Some stuff happened. Explain.
Thanks for that intro. Really wildly entertaining boys soccer state tournament. Like I said, I made the trek to and from Jamestown each day and watched the quarterfinals, semifinals, and championship matches. And between those matches, there were 2 shootouts, and 4 of them, so that's 7 of those matches, 4 of them went into overtime, including both of the semifinals. And so obviously, soccer, that's a sport where anything can happen. We talk about where anything can happen in sports. Soccer is definitely one of those.
Do you agree having a game come down to a shootout, a playoff game?
I mean, after seeing all these overtimes scoreless, I would hate to see a soccer match go into 6 overtimes because neither team can score. So I think you have to settle it somehow. So
I just feel like that there's so much more to soccer than shooting from close to the...
I agree, but unless you can think of some other way to settle it, maybe play it like
mud wrestling fight.
I know,
no?
like half a field. I don't know, but I don't hate the way it is right now. Anywho,
okay.
Fargo Davies, really good for them. They were the number 3 seed out of the East region. And this was only the 3rd time they were ever in the state tournament after they started the soccer program in 2009. This is the first time that they had ever made the state semifinals. And then they beat heavily favored and number 1 seed out of the East, West Fargo, in a shootout, and made their first ever state championship for the first time. And I talked to the head coach, Ian Costello, after the semifinal win, and he was really emotional, just kind of looking at his kids celebrating, making the state championship. Really emotional, really fun, and throughout the tournament. But obviously, Davies, losing to Bismarck 2-1, they just couldn't keep up with them. Bismarck had such a good team offensively. Had state senior athlete of the year Trezor Mugwaniza. And I was schooled on that pronunciation.
Good pronunciation. Wow.
Fargo Shanley, the number 4 seed out of the East, barely making the state tournament after that. So they played Cheyenne to make the state tournament in the last regular season match and tied with them. If they had lost, they wouldn't have even been in the state tournament. And then they go as number 4 seed and beat West Region number 1 seed Bismarck Century in the first round in a shootout. Wildly entertaining, like I said, but obviously Bismarck, they're both number 3 seeds out of their respective regions, and Bismarck just seemed to have better offense to carry them to a state title.
Now, West Fargo losing, just how how surprising was that? Was that as surprising as people thought? Was that big?
Yes, and a little bit no. So West Fargo was the number 1 seed, like I said, out of the East. And this was their first time that they had ever won the Eastern Dakota Conference regular season title. And they looked like they were on fire. They looked like normal West Fargo in the quarterfinals when they beat Mandan 8-1, but they were a team that barely made the state championship. Get this.
So we'll get it.
No, so Mandan, the West Region boys soccer, they have a conference tournament to decide who makes the state tournament, like they do in basketball and other sports. But they don't do it in the East Region, and girls soccer doesn't do it in West or East Region. So the only team that has a conference tournament is the West in boys soccer. Just weird to me.
You sound excited.
Anywho, but West Fargo, really surprising to me because, the way that they played, West Fargo and Davies were tied 0-0 in the first half of the semifinals, and then West Fargo scores right away in the second half, and you're thinking, okay, the Packers are back. Like, they're going to the state championship. By the way, returning state champions, so they had experience in these sort of situations. But then Davies just dominated them offensively. West Fargo barely had any possession, kept the ball away from Telvin Va, who is far and away their best offensive threat. He had 4 goals throughout the tournament and 18 for the season. But I think what ultimately was a really tough reason that West Fargo did lose the way they did, especially considering how West Fargo went into a shootout and Davies beat them 3-0 in that shootout, was the loss of Seth Holm. I was told that he was suspended for about, I think, 30 days for a reason I was never told. But the Packers at the end of the season were 1-2-1 without him in goal. And he had Holm, as the goalkeeper, had 7 shutouts, and the Packers were 11-2-1 with him in net, including a 9-match winning streak. And the defense just looked wildly different without him. And I'm imagining that that has to do with a little bit with communication and just being able to get in front of.
Well, yeah, people
shots.
don't realize there's more to a goalkeeper in soccer and in hockey and basically anything. They direct everybody where to go, and that's a big spot.
And the Packers head coach, James Moe, told me that the defense just really looked disorganized in that loss to Davies. So, like I said, it's surprising the way that they lost and not being able to get as many goals, as you're used to seeing West Fargo get. But without Seth Holm, I think everyone knew that it'd be a much different team without him. So, with that being said, boys soccer state tournament, like I said, Bismarck winning 2-1. Elsewhere in North Dakota, the boys tennis state tournament was happening in Grand Forks throughout the end of last week and the weekend. Murphy, you want to tell me about how...
Let's talk about some tennis. Okay, so South beats Grand Forks Central in the championship, and it's just crazy the amount of the things that happened. So first of all, they were a set away from losing in the first round against Minot, and they come back, they win that. Then all they have to do is beat the top seed Grand Forks Red River, who's won 18 of the last 19 state titles. They do that. And then here's where interesting strategy comes involved with tennis, where there's a lot to tennis that I don't think people realize. So South used the same strategy it did when it beat Red River 2 years ago in the state title. They went with Lawley up top at number 1, basically knowing they were going to win that one. Then they took their 2-3 and put them at number 1 doubles, their 4-5 and put them at number 2 doubles, essentially kind of saying, you know what, all right, we're going to give you 2 and 3 singles, and we're going to go try and win doubles and try and win 3-2. And it worked. But the difference is, in 2015 when they used this strategy, they had beaten Red River in the regular season. So, them beating Red River was a huge deal in 2015, but it wasn't as crazy as this because they used the same strategy a week before the state tournament at the EDC tournament and lost to Central 4-1. So it was the same lineup from that, and they lost to Central 4-1. And here they are, they won 3-2. And Vic Youngs Fargo South coach Vic Youngs had said that his number 1 doubles team of Jeffrey Youngs and Max Olson had just been a different team since the EDC tournament. Those two finished. They didn't win the EDC tournament. They finished second. They lost in the championship in 3 sets. But they got a bunch of confidence from it, and they just played a different game. So you have Vic. So there's just so much to it. You have Vic Youngs, who Fargo South has won 2 state championships in the last 3 years. Vic Youngs has now won 2 team state championships with both of his sons, both times when they were not supposed to win. They just weren't. They just weren't supposed to win. And Brad Schlossman, the reporter for the Grand Forks Herald, who covered it for us, said that Youngs had tears in his eyes talking about, of course he did. He had tears in his eyes talking about winning with his sons and how big of a deal it was. And then on top of that, you have Davis Lawley. Now He's won 2 individual state titles and 2 team state titles. And he was out his junior season, so you can't help but think about what could have happened last year. But either way, just an absolutely crazy run by Fargo South to win that. And yeah, that was, once again, that's why you play the game. But the other interesting thing I found out about tennis is that I know it's easy to sit here and be like, well, when one guy puts out his guy, why don't you put out your guy? The thing is, they don't know each other's lineups until they hand it to each other. So you have no idea who the opposing team is putting at 2 singles and putting at 3 singles. You write out your lineup, and then you just basically that's how it goes. And then you just don't know what it is until it's handed to you. And the difference between North Dakota tennis than any other tennis I've covered, and I covered tennis in Chicago, tennis in Minnesota, is that the kids play doubles and singles throughout the year. Like they aren't specialized in one thing. Like when I covered a lot of tennis in Chicago, like it was like, all right, you had 4 singles and 3 doubles, as opposed to, and if you were a number 3 singles or a number 2 singles, that's all you played all year. You had no experience in doubles. But in North Dakota, you flip-flop so that come state, yeah, you can throw your number 2 singles guy into number 1 doubles and don't lose a beat. So yeah, there's a lot more strategy involved than just kind of like, all right, we're throwing our top tennis player against your top tennis player. And the other thing, the main part of having that game plan is the fact that you had Davis Lawley. You had a guy, you were the best tennis player in the state, so you had him at 1 and you knew he was going to win 1, which makes the other team have to take their top guy and say, do we want to put him against Lawley and waste him, or do we want, what do we do? Do we put him at 1 doubles, but then you have to have, the 6th best guy with him paired with 1. It's just, there's a lot more strategy involved, and Vic Young's just mastered it. Two championships in the last 3 years. And
Murphy, you being the tennis expert you are.
I have no idea what's happening right now. I got all of this from Schlossman.
Is that what you would have done?
Oh, I have no idea what I would have done. I don't coach tennis. I would have just cried in the corner and been that would have been my strategy. Just wept. So yeah, that was the tennis tournament. Crazy for South. And now we move on to cross country talk.
Yeah, cross country North Dakota East Region meet happening. The ran at Rose Creek Golf Course in Fargo, and kind of interesting. Well, I mean, Alexander Luz from Fargo North, excuse the pronunciation, he won the boys' individual title for Fargo North with a time of 16 minutes and 2.5 seconds. And, looks like Grand Forks Red River, they won as a team with a score of 54 points, average time of 16 minutes, 43.7 seconds. And then girls, Rachel Torrey from Grand Forks Central won in 17 minutes, 59.9 seconds for the girls' East Region title individually, and Grand Forks Central took the top 3 individual places. And then Fargo Davies won the team title with 40 points with an average time of 19 minutes and 2.2 seconds, which kind of interesting that I think West Fargo was the number 3 team at the East Region for girls, and they're the number 1 team ranked in the state right now. But I was talking to their head coach, who was the East Region Coach of the Year, Brad Admonson, and he was saying, I don't put a lot of stock into the regular season or even that much into the EDC meet as much as I do into the state meet, which is what they're building up to, which is what they're conditioned for, is the end of the year meet. So, but interesting, like we talk about, anything can happen. That should almost be the title of this podcast. But
no.
Thanks for your input. But yeah, so cross country, East Region, all still up for grabs. And so, okay. Murphy, you want to tell me a little bit about Minnesota cross country?
I have three random things that I have to kind of throw out there. First of all, sticking with cross country, Perham Cross Country, the Yellow Jackets just won their 16th straight boys Heart of Lakes Conference title and their 14th straight for the girls. The boys have made the state meet 15 straight years. Girls is 14 straight years. They're both ranked number 1 in Class 1A. Jeff Morris has just built an absolute monster over there in Perham. And yeah, that's just completely normal. None of this is shocking at this point when it comes to Perham. And so I saw those stats. That was pretty crazy. And I got 2 more volleyball things that I kind of got to throw out there. Dilworth, Glendon, Felton's Paige Faber, which it's very weird now to have to ask coaches the pronunciation of names because I know how to just spell them.
We know how to spell them. We're writers.
Yes.
That's what we do.
Fabre for anybody keeping track at home. Faber, she broke the school record for digs when she got her 1,424th dig. And that was like 2 weeks ago, so she's just completely destroyed it now. She's up to 1,619 as of Tuesday. The interesting thing about her was she started when she was a freshman, but then right before her senior season, she got a knee injury, which kept her out right before her sophomore season, she got a knee injury, which kept her out the entire season because of surgery. So she missed the entire sophomore season, yet she still broke the school record. She shattered the school record in digs. And then moving over to Moorhead, Courtney Carney, who seemingly has been on varsity forever. She's been on varsity since she was a freshman. As of Tuesday, when we recorded this, she has 2,203 assists, and she needs 19 to break the Moorhead record. And Moorhead coach Charlene is very superstitious, so she kind of doesn't like the kids knowing about that. So hopefully Courtney broke it on Tuesday, and you're listening to this on Wednesday. If not, hopefully Courtney's not listening. If Courtney's listening, I'm sorry, Charlene. So she's gonna break it.
You ruin everything.
Yeah, I do. She's gonna break it eventually. The other interesting thing is she's currently number 2 in digs all time at Moorhead with 1,092 digs. She's definitely good. Well, if she wants to, she can play college volleyball. NSIC teams are looking at her. Charlene says she's arguably one of the most strategic players to ever come through Moorhead in any sport, that she can just see an opponent's weakness and attack it. And Charlene also said opposing coaches are very happy to see her go, considering she's been starting since she was a sophomore and been on the team since she was a freshman. And then, Charlene says she will not be surprised if Courtney is coaching someday. So there are your volleyball record broken.
Way to go.
Thank you. Oh, you mean them? You weren't saying way to go to me. You were saying way to go to the record.
Both.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.
I appreciate
So
it.
this concludes our show. We've talked a lot of sports this last week between football, tennis, soccer, cross country, and volleyball. So we hope to keep that going and talk about a lot more sports for the weeks to come. Despite what Murphy says, this is not our last show. That is just the joke. Running joke, but this has been Full Court Press with Forum Sports reporters Colton Poole and Chris Murphy. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you.